Hi, Hugh. Yeah, it was a long journey, I guess you could say, having come basically a year now from when we announced that product last year. And it's, the challenge that we've always run into is that, we always aim to really impress people with the products that we put out at shows, and we traditionally have done a pretty good job of impressing people with this. Sometimes our eagerness gets the better of us as well. And what we found when we were developing the 4.6K camera in particularly was when we got to NAB last year, we knew what the capabilities of the camera could be, and we had the engineering legwork in there to see how amazing this camera could be. What we found was the farther we got along in developing the camera, the more we kept thinking, well, we're getting closer, but we're not getting, in particularly with the global shutter, a feature that we wanted to have in there be good enough to be usable. So this becomes a problem of where you're almost chasing your tail and saying, well, if we give it another 30 days, maybe we'll get there. If we give it another 30 days, well, maybe we'll get there. The hope is always to get there. But what we started to find later in the year was, we could be working on that feature forever and never put out what is really an amazing sensor for an amazing camera. It takes beautiful images, the 15 stops of dynamic range, to have something that may never actually be usable, because we can make the global shutter work. But if randomly 30% or 50% of the time you were getting poor image quality out of that, well, that's just not a usable feature. So ultimately we did have to make the tough decision to say, look, we have to drop the global shutter as a feature. We know we have the global shutter in the 4K sensor version of the camera, so if that was ultimately the most important to someone, they could get that, and basically respec the camera as a camera that was a 15-stop dynamic range camera that lacked the global shutter. So ultimately a very tough decision to do and a disappointing decision to have to make, but we didn't want to continually hold out on releasing what we thought was an amazing product. So that decision was made. We wrapped up the development on the 4.6K sensor. Those have been shipping the last 5 or 6 weeks, and the images that people are seeing off of it are impressive, and we're glad to have that out into people's hands now. And you understand where there's disappointment, because we have that same disappointment, because it's a product feature that would have been a great thing to have. Also, the fact that people did have to wait for a long time to us to get to that decision, can be frustrating. But that is the frustration of developing these products and saying, like, we want to make this great product to do this thing, and we could have. Ultimately, I guess at the end of the day, we could have put a fork in it back in July of last year and said, nope, not going to have it, and not try. But ultimately we did try, weren't able to get it there, and still wanted to put the product out. And as we discussed briefly earlier, the frustration comes from the fact that people do want us to be successful. They do want these cameras to be amazing, because regardless of whether they're just following us because they're interested or because they really want to use the tools, what Blackmagic is doing in our industry is really shaping a lot of what's going on around us. So, we can say, like, well, I'm not going to ever use a Blackmagic camera because I always use an Arri Alexa. And that's great for that person that's always going to use it. It's a fantastic camera, but not everybody can use those products, and ultimately we end up shaping a lot of the market around us because of what we do with cameras and what we do with DaVinci Resolve and what we've been doing for many years with a lot of the product lineups we have. So that frustration sometimes comes from the fact that people really do want us to be successful, and ultimately, while we don't aim to ever disappoint somebody, we continually try to strive to show them that we are working towards really lofty goals, and this NAB is a great example of where we're now coming and trying to further along great products and great developments, and show people that we're still very committed to being an innovative company. And it is definitely one of those things where you have to realize that not everything is going to be perfect, not everything is going to work out well, but we also can't stop ourselves from being innovative and being creative. But a great example is this year at NAB. Last year we came with a lot of lofty goals, and we did make some great products. This year we've come out, and of the 9 hardware products that we have, 6 of them are actually shipping at the show, and we have 6 new software announcements, and 5 of them are available for download on the website. So you can see that while we've done a lot of great work on all of these products, we've also tried to temper our expectations. We would have loved to have come with 30 new products, but we maybe have learned a few of our lessons, that we need to as I said earlier, our own eagerness maybe got the best of us, and now we need to be a little bit better about saying, look, let's set realistic expectations. We also do have products that we do want to announce because they're important, and we do want to show that we are working on those developments, but we are trying to find our own way while still being hungry, being innovative, and we want to temper the eagerness, but we also want to still shoot for the stars. So, last year we did come out with the original Video Assist product, which is a great product for $500, being able to have that HD monitor and recorder for ProRes and DNx HD. But of course, we also came out with products like our own micro studio camera, which was a 4K camera that had no recording. So as we've pushed into all of these Ultra HD formats, we realized that we need to make kind of the big brother version. So a larger screen, a couple of new additions hardware-wise you can do with a larger form factor, but the big thing being that it is an actual Ultra HD recorder, which is great because that allows us to have a very affordable recorder for Ultra HD for things like the Micro Studio 4K camera. It gives us a bigger screen for times when people just want to have a larger monitor on their DSLRs or on other cameras that maybe don't have the best monitoring capabilities. It also has mini XLR audios, which is great because a lot of cameras don't have as good of, particularly DSLRs. You want to have that XLR audio for being able to have a mic phantom power off the unit. So I found it's not the greatest demo this year because everyone's already very familiar with the Video Assist. You say, look, it's like a Video Assist but larger. So it's a great product. It doesn't take a lot of explanation, but like I said, the best part is it's shipping now for $895. So one that we can just kind of hit out of the park right off the bat. Our other kind of cool announcement for the URSA Mini 4.6K, which is the Studio Viewfinder, which is just a live Studio Viewfinder that, much like a Video Assist 4K if I just wanted to have a monitor, what we find in live production is people want to have that very robust Studio Viewfinder. When you look at a camera, you see that it's for studio use. So a lot of people, that's the eye-grabbing piece of candy that we have at the show. Everyone says, ooh, what's that? And it makes it look like a studio camera. So it's interesting because they both still fill a similar role, but they are actually very different products in their usage. It'll stay another busy year for us. So once we'll get through NAB, it'll be back into work mode and should be a great 2016. I feel a little tired, a little weary.